about that show of support and political support as well. I mean, what is it saying often? And let's be honest, you know, the sentiment out there is, this is rent a crowd. They've been given some T-shirts, they've been given some transport, they get to come and spend a day outside court. But you know, if we had to liken this to what we saw with football matches being played without supporters, what does this kind of support, whether it's rent a crowd, whether it's actually genuine, what is the message that is actually being sent out here?
For me, Yuveka, it just talks about, you know, the divisions within the ANC, right? I mean, former President Jacob Zuma has had support over the years. There's no question about that. There is no doubt about that. From the time when he was first charged, the issue of people coming out to support him has been something that's been consistent. But he was on the ascendance in terms of his leadership inside the ANC. And over a period of time, including the period after he vacated office in terms of leading the ANC and the country, you've sort of started to see that there are certain similarities and certain discernible patterns, particularly in terms of consistency of messaging by those who come out to support him. Many of them come out to say that he's being persecuted for championing radical economic transformation. And a lot of the times, the implication that the current ANC leadership is not championing radical economic transformation as mandated by the conference in 2017 is never far off from the lips of some of the people, be it ordinary people who come out to be part of this support of former President Jacob Zuma, or those who are at the forefront of mobilizing that support. You will not struggle to hear that message being pronounced. And Dessen Tatia is absolutely right. Former President Jacob Zuma did say that he doesn't want people to, he did say this last week, he doesn't want people coming in his name to support him, but then showcasing divisions inside the ANC, turning the ANC into the laughingstock of the public. Inside, we are seeing the usual and typical, personalities that are at the forefront of this. You're seeing Supra Mahumapelo, himself embattled, a former chairperson of the ANC in the Northwest. I did see Zandile Gumede. There's Ace Mahashule there, Bongani Bongo, inside court. Zandile Gumede, I did spot a bit earlier on. The former mayor of eThekwini, herself embattled. These are people who will tell you about championing radical economic transformation. The other interesting figure is, of course, Malusi Gigaba. He, in terms of his support for the cause of the, shall we call it, RET faction of the ANC, is something that has been speculated about. He's hardly ever really been coming out to be part of these processes. He is here today, and I don't believe we got anything much. We got much out of him with Siphamandla Goge as he was making his way inside court there. Joe Maswanganyi, you will see among the people who are gathered there, Sihle Zikalala and Mdumiseni Ntuli and other members of the Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC find themselves in a difficult spot in that they have a resolution that supports former President Zuma, the man you see in your picture at the moment. But last week they were booed by some of the former president's supporters. He's making his way there now with about 3 minutes to go to the top of the hour. I do imagine, Yuveka, that we will now be seeing Judge Pitkun making his way inside court very soon. Very quickly, Mabo, let me give you a quick word as we wait for the judge. We've talked about the possibility, if former President Zuma is successful in his application, the next step is that he asks to be acquitted right here, right now. But what if he's not successful? If Judge Pitkun rejects this particular plea, does this pause the proceedings in terms of the trial?
If it's refused, we would then expect to then go straight to trial. But as anyone would expect, if you are an accused in a case and you have certain rights, you will want to exercise them up until you've reached the ceiling. So if the ruling is unfavorable, we would expect that it would be taken up to the next court. which might be the SCA in this instance.
Yeah, you want to weigh in on that, but we keep saying that it's interlocutory.
Yes.
You guys love your jargon. What do you mean interlocutory? For my mother,
yeah, in simple terms, it's a case within a case. Right. So with one case, if there's a case that's there, and then there's something new that comes up, that pops up, you want to first just deal with that first, decide on it, and then, yes, a specific situation in the case, deal with that, and then go back to the main case.
Yeah.
So
it has no finality.
No. What can happen is that, like my colleague has stated here, it's not going to be an automatic acquittal. He still needs to make an application to persuade the court to make him to grant an order for him being acquitted on all these charges.
Yeah.
Because now the way that they've stated it in the pleading is as if, okay, if you find that we are correct by saying that he should be removed, then automatically the entire case falls off. No, it doesn't work like that. It's another application on its own. Because
but I guess what I was asking you is we've got our eyes trained on that entrance where we do expect the judge will walk in.
Yes.
And when that happens, I will pause you.
Yeah.
But I guess what I was asking is, my understanding is that the preference of the courts is for those judgments and those decisions that are interlocutory, that are not final and are not definitive of the main issue,
yes,
being the guilt or otherwise of the accused, to not lead to the process being paused and leading to a whole appeal all the way to the SCA and potentially the Constitutional Court while the criminal trial is on pause.
Yeah.
Do I have that understanding correct?
Yes.
Or do we get to a point, if he is not successful, there's actually a pause while he appeals this particular matter?
There will be a pause. There will be a pause because now he will want the higher court to decide on the decision of a lower court. So this trial could end up taking the whole year to actually start. So, I mean, like my colleague has also stated, that he can go to the highest level until he touches the ceiling, up until where they said, you know what, you've exhausted all avenues, let's go back to the main issue that is at hand, which is actually all these charges before this court that you still need to answer to.
Right. And Mabo, in terms of how the NPA responds to this, you saw Dalimpofu as well, right? We're not certain at this point whom he's representing. We've seen Tabani Masu, and in terms of just personality becomes important, isn't it? In terms of how you then make your affidavit and your pleadings, how you make them come alive before a judge. Those characters that I've just mentioned, that sets the stage for it to be quite interesting, right?
It does. You see, because also preparing your witnesses, all of these things go with character. The way you draft your papers, the way you present them to the judge, the way you lead your witnesses, all of that, it only works with character. Not all advocates and attorneys will have the same, even if the facts were similar. You will find that different counsels will present it differently and reach and actually be able to get a different outcome just because of their character and the abilities that only they have. So the stage is set. I think we are all in for quite an exciting day to see what's going to transpire in terms of the arguments, at least for today, that will be presented. We won't expect much from the judge, but the advocates will definitely serve us up.
You say we won't expect much from the judge, but as we watch where Judge Pitkun will come in and take his seat, and as we wait for him, but we already got his orientation, that his expectation today is that not only this plea, that Billy Downer that he has no title to prosecute, he does expect that there will be a plea entered officially, guilty or not guilty, right? From what he said last week.
Yes, yeah. He needs to decide on the application beforehand at court, and also decide on the stance of the prosecution as a whole. Because, I mean, in as much as he might say that our focus is not on the judge, but whatever he says today is going to change so many things. As a legal person, we're waiting on every single a fact or presentation that's going to be stated here at court, because it's going to set so much precedence for upcoming matters going forward. It's a huge case for us, especially because law is always changing. It's not a straightforward and narrow thing. 1 minute it's another decision, it gets overturned. The next minute it's another decision, it takes another different direction. Yeah. So it's always changing. We're always studying, and the law is always changing as we go along.
So Mabo, just lastly on this point, is it the expectation that the first plea to be dealt with and dispensed with is the plea that Billy Downer has no title to prosecute and should be removed from the case? Or do we start with Mr. Zuma, are you guilty or not guilty? How do you plead?
I think today we are interested in knowing how he pleads. It would be interesting if that one was gotten out of the way, and then we deal with the issue of the prosecutor. But maybe he would say he doesn't want to do that until the case against the sitting prosecutor currently is dealt with. So it's going to be an issue of a strategy as well from the defense team, how they approach it, and the directive from the judge.
And the word that the judge used was that he would rather not deal with the pleas in a piecemeal approach. We're seeing some activity there, the court officials placing the various files that are relevant for Judge Piet Koen to be able to refer to those. I imagine those will include all the pleadings of the various parties, just for ease of convenience, Yuveka. We are watching and on standby for Judge Piet Koen to come into courtroom A and get us underway in earnest.
All right, well, just thanks very much, Thulas. And I think just to remind anyone who's just joined us, this is Newslink on eNCA. What you're watching, former President Jacob Zuma returning to the High Court in Pietermaritzburg today.